Sam, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Sam Chaudhary, founder and CEO of ClassDojo. All right, so Sam, recently you've gotten rid of one-on-ones. And of course, Jansen at NVIDIA and Brian at Airbnb have very publicly declared that they have gotten rid of one-on-ones and it's been super effective for them. But I don't coach either one of those guys, so we can't get into the details with them. But you've also done it now. And so can you please share with us, A, why did you do it? B, what have the results been? And then C, now that we know that there's like problem solution, how did you actually do it? Because that's what everybody's wondering.
Yeah.
So one, what was the problem? Why get rid of one-on-ones? Why not spend 12 hours a week doing one-on-ones?
Well, yeah, a little bit of context here. So we back in the day, we didn't used to do very structured one-on-ones when we were starting out. We'd grab a coffee, go for a walk, whatever. Then maybe like 7-8 years ago, we got into much more structured one-on-ones. I can show you the template, but it would have the agenda, it would have the accountability, the actions we want to take. Then it would have coaching, what's going well, what's not going well, and then transparency or feedback both ways. And so I started doing these. Initially, I had like one report, then I had two, then I had three, then four, and all of those people then started to have a few reports. And we had this really good culture around everyone doing these individual one-on-ones. What I started to realize, and I've been feeling this for a year or so, was that so many of our problems are not just functionally scoped. It's not like I can just talk to the product leader and they can figure the problem out, or I can just talk to the engineering leader and they can figure it out. We execute in cross-functional teams. Our goals span all the functions in the company. So if one goal is at risk, it's not just one function that can sort it out. So what I noticed was happening in my one-on-ones was we'd talk about a problem. I would copy and paste the discussion into the next one-on-one doc. We'd talk about it there. There'd be a bit more context. I'd go to the next one-on-one. And it became this joke. I'm like, okay, we're just copying and pasting things to each other. So in our exec team meeting one week, I was like, I want to try an experiment. This was only about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So I want to try an experiment where we ramp down our one-on-ones and we ramp up something else instead called a group one-on-one. And the group one-on-one is going to follow a similar structure. So we're going to nominate our priorities. We're going to nominate what's going well and what's not going well and our proposed solutions for things that aren't going well. And we're going to nominate feedback for someone else in the group, a like and a wish. And we're going to do all of that in one shared document together. And that's going to form the core of our exec team meeting. We'll start by reviewing goals and then we'll go into this. And initially, again, the team was surprisingly open to this, like way more open than I thought. I framed it as an experiment. I said, we'll try it for a month and then we'll recap at the end of it and see how we feel. Now, I think for them, there was a good trade going on. They're like, oh, I get like, 45 minutes or an hour back of my Monday. This could be good. I think for me, I was like, wow, we can actually talk about all the cross-cutting problems. And so we started to try this and it's been amazing. And I can tell you a bit more detail, but that's the broad strokes.
Well, no, we definitely want to hear what are the results? Why is it amazing? What's the benefit of this? Obviously, you get time back.
Yeah.
But does it work as well? Are the results as good?
Yeah. So initially, there were a couple of concerns that came up. One that didn't come up actually was, are people going to be candid and honest? So what I found was that first I was just role modeling. I'll just write in very candidly what's working, what's not working from the way I see it. I'm fortunate the team is a very candid team. It's one of the big values of the company. So the doc has really extreme levels of candor in it, and it's public to the whole exec team group. So people are running through it and adding, real issues and real agenda items, and there's zero ego in there because you see everyone else doing it. So that's been really great. I think one thing that people worried about was, are we still going to get, kind of the informal time where we just get to have a touch point with each other? And what we remedied, or what we brought in there was, hey, we'll just get together as much as you want. At least once a quarter, let's go out and get lunch or dinner and just talk about life in general. But what I found is because we have this group shared context, it means we can break off into smaller working groups rather than chasing each other around the building, trying to find bits of information from other people. So you start with this great amount of shared context, and then you can break off and do smaller group work and more intimate kind of work and settings. And that's been amazing. The second thing that's been great is that it drives one set of shared actions. So rather than combing across 8 different docs to find all your actions and get onto them, You've now just got like, oh, these are the most important problems in the company. This is what I committed to doing for them. Now we can just do those things. So it's been really like game changing for us actually.
Amazing. So, okay, so obviously your time is significantly reduced, but what it sounds like is the solutioning and the actioning is actually significantly increased. So you went from, I don't know, sounds like 8 to 12 hours of one-on-ones per week to 3 to 4 hours of group one-on-ones per week. And what you're telling us is this is actually producing more output than this. Is that
Yeah,
right?
well, I think that's right. So I'll say specifically, we do a 60 to 90 minute exec team meeting on Monday. And then we have a
Hmm.
second block on Thursday of 60 minutes for optional spillover stuff. So the time is drastically reduced from, for me, 8 to 12 hours, as you were saying, to maybe to 2.5 hours. But yes, because you have everyone's eyes on everyone else's issues and everyone's brain thinking about these other issues, you get better answers too.
And to make sure that we don't mislead the audience watching, that 60 to 90 minute first meeting, it's only because you have everyone pre-writing and pre-reading
Yeah.
all of the information that goes in there. So the meeting is basically done before it starts. Whereas
Yeah.
if people aren't pre-writing, if people aren't pre-reading, that meeting on its own would last 3, 4, 5 hours.
Yeah, yeah. I should say so.
Okay.
Mechanically, the way we do this is there's a running doc. We have this template in there of what are your priorities this week, what's going well, what's not going well, and your proposed solutions, and then feedback. And everybody fills out that template. As with all of these things, it takes a little while to dial in the hygiene, but we're getting to it's done by 9 a.m. on Monday morning. The exec team meeting is in the afternoon on Mondays, so
Mhm.
everyone has time to pre-read and pre-read everyone else's pre-writes. Everyone adds comments, adds suggestions. Anyone can graduate things to the agenda for discussion.
Mhm.
But that pre-work is what makes it so efficient.
Amazing. All right. So now comes the transition. How to do the transition? Because any CEO listening to this says, wow, I want to do that. But
Yeah.
how do I get from where I am now to that? And I think there's going to be two fears, two objections. One is I can't get my entire team to follow a format and get it all in a pre-write by, 2 days before the meeting. I then can't get my entire team to read all of the pre-writes prior to the meeting. How do you do that transition? How do you get people to write what you want them to write with the fidelity that you want it, as opposed to just some like fluffy, generic, non-specific update,
Yeah.
and on time, and then have people ingest it and comment on it on time?
Yeah. Good question. I mean, I think we're fortunate. Like pre-reads have always been part of the dojo culture, so generally people are used to doing them. I think with this, it took a little bit though. So one is, I mean, the usual answers. One is we framed the whole thing as an experiment. So I'm not asking you to sign up for life. I'm like, let's just start with an experiment for 4 weeks, so we can be wholehearted for 4 weeks and see how we feel at the end of it. The second was role modeling. So me writing my stuff in there at the, to role model what it could look like. So if I'm throwing in a sentence, then what am I going to expect from other people? But if I'm putting like a good level of fidelity in, then others like, oh, that's kind of what we're doing here. Um, I think those have been the two. And then the third is my EA plays an amazing role in corralling everyone, making sure the pre-reads are in, chasing when they're not, reminding everyone to do it. And the last thing I'll say is we do a 5 minute block at the start to reread things if needed. I'm attempting to phase that out, but it's a process, step by step.
Amazing. Perfect. And then the second question is, and by the way, if people want to handhold even more than that any CEO could have their EA or chief of staff help schedule a one-on-one with each person to help them write their first pre-write. So there's it guaranteed to be good the very first time.
Yeah, I think as
Um,
well. One thing I'll say, Matt, you reminded me of is we haven't got this yet, but it's something that I'd hope to do. Is at the end of the day on Friday or midday on Friday, what I'm hoping to do is hold a block where people can just do their pre-reads or pre-writes for the next week. So we have a few running meetings. We have those one-on-ones. We have office hours. We have product reviews. All of them have pre-reads and pre-writes for them. So if we just hold a block across the company, like you can fill out these little snippets for the following week. I think that would be quite a good innovation. We're going to try it. We haven't got there yet.
Sounds great. Sam, the other big fear that CEOs have about implementing this group one-on-ones is, what about all, like in my one-on-ones now, people are bringing up really painful issues about other departments, about other leaders. My fear is that if we do group one-on-ones, like no one's going to say difficult things about other departments or other people in the group meeting. So now this key information is just going to stay suppressed.
Hmm.
How do you address, what did that happen to you, Sam?
Oof, man, that's a good one. At least so far, I haven't seen that. I think
Hmm.
this might be a little bit dependent on the culture of the company, though.
Hmm.
So many of these practices depend on the culture they're landing in. You can totally imagine this
Hmm.
kind of thing becoming really toxic if everyone hates everyone. I think for the
Hmm.
most part, again, we've had years now of doing kind of oddly candid practices. So, for example, at our exec team offsites, the usual starting activity is everybody puts up a big sheet of paper on the wall, for one for each person, and you go around and you say, what do you really respect and admire about this person in like the last quarter or the last 6 months, greatest strength, and what's something that they're doing that is destructive to our goals. And it's up on the walls. It's clear for everyone to see, including me. And and then we go one by one and we review each of them, and people make commitments to what they're going to work on. So we kind of started with this culture of like unusual amounts of candor. I think, or hopefully, it's not unusual, but it could be unusual amounts of candor. So I think then when it comes to the doc, and you're like, oh, I'm having a problem with, I don't know, engineering hiring, or so and so and the other, it seems relatively small potatoes so far, at least.
Fantastic.
We'll find out more.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Amazing. And that may be even another topic is how to transition a team from non-transparent to transparent, because that is a huge thing that you've done incredibly well. Let's actually do that as a separate subject.
Okay.
All right. Are there any things that I can think of else on these group one-on-ones? Oh, yeah. So but Sam, again, even if the team is able to be willing to be transparent, and and people are able to look to receive difficult information and take it as a gift for them to improve, as opposed to an assault on their personhood and on their ego. um, Even if that transition is possible, there are still things that aren't appropriate for the group.
Hmm.
Like, Sam, I'm having a personal issue in my family. My mother is not well. I need to be with her. I guess you could share that in the group. Or, Sam, I want more compensation. Or, Sam, I'm thinking of leaving. I mean, there are certain things that are just, I want you to know, but I don't want the rest of the world to know.
Yeah.
How do you deal with those?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think the backup so far has been, hey, like more formally, we'll have some amount of time every quarter, let's say. I think we're doing every
Hmm.
8 weeks or something. We'll just get together for lunch or dinner, one on one, or so on. But
Hmm.
honestly, I think the other side of this is you don't need these formal structures to share those things. I
Hmm.
think we just have check-ins. We are in a good habit of calling each other or texting each other when we want to talk immediately. So you never know what you don't know. But I think for me, it's been, let's just stay close to each other. We also do I should say team offsites every quarter or so. So my exec
Hmm.
team gets together every 3 4 months. There's usually group time, there's individual time, and in between those, we have these one-on-one lunches and dinners. So there's enough, I think, touch points that you can usually catch something. Um, but it's just a cultural habit of, if you have a problem, talk to someone about it.
Perfect. So people are able to reach out to you and say, "Hey, Sam, can we connect?" And you'll make time for them.
Yeah, because you're not doing 12 hours
Perfect.
one-on-ones. Now you have you have open time.
Plenty of time. Exactly. One thing I have seen other people do is schedule a one open office hours, one
Oh yeah.
hour a week for exactly this purpose. It usually never gets used, but it's symbolically there in case, so people
That's
know
a
that they can come to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do that. So we have all hands every week, and immediately every other week after all hands, I have an office hour, so people can drop in and talk about anything that's on their minds. It hasn't dived into
Fantastic.
super personal stuff yet. It's more like, hey, how do you think about this business problem or so on? But isn't theoretically open time for people to bring anything.
Fantastic. Amazing.
Oh,
All
Matt,
right, that's incredible.
I've got one other thing which may or may not be contributing here, but I think it could be
Yeah.
useful. I make it a point to do at least one and usually two of the onboarding sessions. So there are formal sessions. People have to tell them about the culture of the company, the vision, the mission. I do two sessions. One is the vision, mission, and strategy session, and the other is how we hire, because I think that's so fundamentally important to the long-term success of the company. So I personally run both those sessions. Now, the group that's on the onboarding class that's on that call with me, usually call it 10 people, let's say, um, that group then gets a Slack channel with me. So we've had a touch point early on in their trajectory at Dojo. We've had some semi-intimate conversation. Then they're with me on Slack, and that kind of empowers people to just drop me a note or DM me one-on-one if they want to talk about something. So I think setting that foundation early, that it's okay to talk to each other, is an important thing.
Sounds great. Awesome. Sam, that is all I have. You're amazing.
Oh man,
Thank you for taking the time.
dude, thank you so much for having me on. It's cool.